Good afternoon, everybody. MG here, MGCovers, bringing you a brand new handicapping video. We are going to dive into the world of soccer, or if you're European, perhaps you call it football. But anyway, title of this video, How to Cash Big Underdogs in Soccer. Sexy title. However, the approach is very methodical and can be a huge tool to add to your handicapping when handicapping soccer. So let's get started. All right, the stat model breakdown. What I'm going to show you is the stat model and how I sort of create the stat model for soccer. But first, what I want to do is we're going to look at this game between these two teams here. First team is Atletico MG, and if I pronounce these wrong, you can correct me. Send me an email with the correct pronunciation, mg@mgcovers.com. Okay, so if you look here where it says, you don't see what's on top, but see where it says 34 and 41? That is the goal differential, which means they've played 29 games, 29 matches. They've scored 34 goals and given up 41. So their goal differential is -7. And the team they're playing, this is the actual game that went down last night, just FYI, is Chapecoense. Had to make sure I pronounce that right. Chapecoense's 24 goals, giving up 43, so their goal differential is -19. However, this is a flawed stat at most sites like soccerstats.com, whoscored.com. They factor it more for not really entertainment, but from a statistical approach and not a sports betting approach. And the reason that it's flawed is because they're factoring all of these goals based on the team playing all the teams that they've played year to date. So what I mean by that is Atletico MG, they're showing they've scored 34 goals on all their opponents and given up 41. The correct way to factor goal differential, first off, is not to use year-to-date stats. We only use stats from the last 5 games when I'm handicapping soccer. And I just did a video about this yesterday called Recent Form. If you want to check that out, it's the reasons why. But the best indicator of future performance is most recent performance. So when we're handicapping soccer or any sport, we're only going to use stats from the last 5 matches. Now, also the way we handicap goal differential is different than what you see listed here. We handicap goal differential comparing each opponents to each other. Sounds complicated in a way, but it's very simple. Now, when you look at this, is an actual screenshot from my goal differential. And if you're a coaching client, you have access to this. So our goal differential for these two teams, when we factor it a little bit differently, but it's very simple, we have them as even. Okay, and what that means is these teams are playing pretty close to even, which means they're scoring and giving up about the same amount of goals. So when you're handicapping this, that would bring attention to this game, meaning like, hey, these teams are even, and then we need to check the line. Now, when we create the line, again, we do it the same way. We only use stats from the last 5 games. And the line we came up with was Atletico MG at +161 and Chapecoense at +216. So we still have Atletico MG as a favorite and Chapecoense, a pretty significant dog. But again, we go back to the goal differential. Both of these teams are at even goal differential. So even though we're looking at a line, we still have to factor in goal differential, which leads us to believe this is going to be a fairly close game. Now, odds analysis, this is very important. So when we see even goal differential in our stat model, we need to check the odds, because if we look at the odds and let's say Chapecoense is, say, +235, maybe Atletico is the favorite, or they're somewhere around that same number, and there's no value, then this would be a game we wouldn't even consider. However, when you look at the odds, which we're going to look at now, Atletico is a huge, huge favorite at -347. Chapecoense is the dog at +1010, and the draw line is +474. Now, if you're new to soccer, let me explain this. You can, when you wager soccer, depending on books, European books are a little bit differently. you have three options. You can wager a team to win, team to lose, or the draw line, which means if the game finishes in a tie and you play the draw line, you win. So now that we're looking at this line here, and we have these teams that not exactly even on our line, but pretty even in goal differential, and we're getting huge value in Chapecoense at plus 210. And what that means in essence, for a $100 player, if you wager $100 and Chapecoense wins the game, you're going to win $1,000. So, or you would pick up 10 units. Same deal if the game goes to draw at plus 473. So let's look at how we would structure this wager. Now, there are some other things that we would consider situationally, which that would be part of a video that we got coming up for our coaching clients, which means we're going to tell you how to take the stat model and then factor in situational angles, which is what I call the subjective side of handicapping. You're handicapping home and away, you're how to handicap and factor in injuries for each team, how well they play on the road versus how well they play at home, et cetera, which I'm not going to cover in this video. We're just going to talk about how we would structure this wager because we do have value in playing Chapecoense. Now, the reason you see their half unit on Chapecoense to win would be plus 1010. Now, the reason we play half a unit, they are the away team, and based on my research, the home team in soccer wins at about 50% of the time. So the home team has an advantage across the board. Now, that's not true for every team, but when you're just looking at soccer as a whole, home team wins at about 50% of the time, away team wins at about 15% of the time, and the draw in soccer happens at about 30% of the time. So we have a lot of things going against us, and if we would just bet a full unit and Chapecoense loses a game, then we lose a full unit. So here's a way we can structure the bet to sort of, it's kind of like a hedging technique. And we would also wager, in addition to wagering on Chapecoense to win, we would wager on the draw line, half a unit on the draw line at plus 426. Now, your book and a lot of the European books, they offer where you can actually wager a unit on one team to win or draw, which means if that team wins or draws, then you would obviously win the wager, and they give you one actual betting line for that. Whereas a lot of these books that you see up here, a lot of the popular offshore books, Pinnacle, Five Dimes, Bookmaker, Bet Online, Bovada, you don't necessarily have that option. I hadn't checked some of these books. They may offer it, but I know Dimes, Bet Online doesn't. So the reason we're structuring it this way is, again, if Chapecoense loses the game, loses the match, well, then we would just lose a full unit, just like we would on any other wager we make in sports betting, okay? But if Chapecoense was to win, we would actually win, and this is as an example using we're gonna assume this is a $100 better, which means the bettor is wagering $100 on each bet. So in this particular example, he's wagering $50 on Chapecoense to win, and if they do win, then you would win $505 total. And how you figure that is you take 10-10, the odds, times 50%, wagering half a unit, and you have to subtract the draw because we wagered a half unit on the draw, and that comes to $455 or 4.55 units. Incredible value. So I've talked about this in another video, minimizing risk. So actually, when you look at this, we're wagering a half unit on the win line, but look at how much the opportunity we have to make. We can win $450 for a $100 player or 4.55 units. And also, the most likely occurrence would be the draw line. So the draw line would win $213, and you would take 426 times 50, and that's $213, minus the 50 that we wagered on the win line, and that brings us to $163 for a $100 player, or 1.63 units. Now, again, your book may offer where you would wager a full unit. I think Bet365 is that way, Bet America is that way, where they give you the opportunity to wager on that team to win or draw. However, if your book doesn't offer that, then you can structure your wager this way here. Okay. So there's very little risk in this wager, and based on our handicapping, we feel like these teams are very close, are playing at the same level right now. So let's look at the final result. You knew this was coming. Chapecoense pulls off the upset on the road. They win this one 2-0. So the wager would actually, for a $100 player, would win $455. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, how you would structure a wager to hit a huge underdog in soccer. How often does this come up? Not often, but often enough to where you could hit 2 or 3 of these a year and go up, 5 units, depending on how the line is structured, maybe 3 units, 4 units in one single game. Especially when you see the line where, if you back up, I'm not going to switch screens, but where you see in our stat model where the teams are at even goal differential, but you're getting huge underdogs on one of the teams. So how do you get access to these power rankings? Now, the way we structure on our site, you can get, it's part of our coaching program, $29.95. That includes power rankings for all sports. You're able to create your own lines for all sports. We also offer handicapping videos, how to handicap MLB, NFL, soccer, NHL, NCAA basketball. And we upload one new premium video to the site weekly. And you see the little arrow. If you're interested in soccer, here's what you get. You get goal differential and our lines for approximately 30 matches each week. Okay. So in this week, there's actually 4 teams that we've evaluated as even. And of course, that game, the Brazil game, series game, that was from yesterday. So that opportunity does come up frequently. And the only way to get access to that is obviously be a member. And the leagues that we cover the English Premier League, which is about, each league plays about 10 games a week. We cover the Brazil Series A League and the Bundesliga League for German. So you get about 30. So when you're a member, for $30 a month, you're going to get access in the power rankings. You'll get the goal differential and our lines for each of those, approximately 30 matches a week. Now, if you're not interested in that and you just want the plays, well, you can subscribe. Daily Picks, $49.95 per month, and you get all of our plays for MLB, even though it's just ended. NFL, soccer, NHL, NCAA basketball, and we're also adding NBA. So hopefully that video was helpful to you. And is going to help you in the future in order to cash some big underdogs in soccer. Soccer is a very good money line sport to play. If you're not wagering on soccer, it's definitely something you should look into. Don't forget, follow me on Twitter and Instagram under the screen name MGCovers, covers with a Z. I put out a ton of content on Instagram on the storyline, handicapping tips, information, things that you might find helpful. And if you like this video, click the like button. Also subscribe to the channel. And if you're interested in becoming a member, there is a link in the description box. You can click on that to join MGCovers.com as a website. Hope everybody has a profitable weekend in soccer, and hey, cash some big underdogs.